can have a picture together.
That's it. Give me a spot, please. Yeah, perfect. Another one. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, I have to say thank you very much to all of you, because I have to say thank you very much to all of you. I work in the industry for more than 50 years, and there were a lot of ups and downs, and lots of friends with me here today, and also from the German Shipowners Association. I was involved in the IMO and ICS discussion with emissions, which comes now reality, and it's more important than ever, but it started already many years ago. And the panel here, it was very interesting for me, but there was one I was thinking. When I started to build my first bulk carriers in Japan, it was in the 80s, last century. And then we had a fleet of six or seven bulk carriers. And on each door, I had a mark on each door, which was a door to a storage room. There was a remark, switch off the light, save energy. That is already 40 years ago. The reason for that was I operated the ship by myself, and every ton or every gram of energy which was spoiled was money, and the money was really a need for me, so to pay the vessel. So it's not you. We have to think, and we have to think to make it even better today. Yeah, better in the future. Thank you very much, and thank you for.
Background.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone, and congratulations, Alfred, with a very well-deserved recognition. And thank you for sharing some of your views and also some of your, say, early moving energy-saving tactics. Now, it's, for me, maybe it feels a little bit difficult to introduce Captain Alfred Hartmann to all of you, because I think he's a titan and you know him well. But I think it would be appropriate to just give a very quick resume of how it started and where you are at this stage. So as you all know, Alfred is the founder and chairman of the Hartmann Group. You were a trained shipbroker and shipping merchant, and you actually started your seafaring time as a cadet with Norddeutsche Lloyd. You also a graduate in industrial engineering and management, and you attained your master's license for deep sea vessels for any size and any kind. And as you refer to yourself, back in 1981, you established your own shipping company, the Hartmann Reederei. And then over the past 3-4 decades, you expanded the group and you became one of Germany's largest shipping companies with a fleet of about 150 vessels, if I'm not wrong. I'm sure you will correct me, and more than 5,000 employees on board and ashore. So, and on top of that, you also were the chairman of the supervisory board of Hartmann AG until June 2008, at which time you handed over the baton to your son, sitting right over there. And that is a great succession planning, I think. And as many of you know, you were also the president of the Verband Deutsche Reeder from 2015 until 2021. So that was a short summary of your long history in shipping. Now, if I just can ask you a few questions. So you witnessed the evolution of German and global shipping over several decades. And when you look back, when you began your career, what stands in your view out as the most, say, striking change in the industry today compared to back then in the early 80s, please?
In the early 80s, when I started, of course, it was a very small ship, only 1,500 tons. And the most sophisticated electronic device was on board a Grundig world receiver. So, on the other hand, when I crossed with that small vessel, the Biscay, I had to look from the downside up to the waves. And my experience before as a captain on big ships was always to look from top down to the waves. So that was a really big experience for me. But the vessels in those times were very simple. Even in deep sea, what we had on board the ship, what we had on the bridge, okay, there was an engine, a diesel engine, run by gas oil in those days mainly. Then on the bridge we had a compass, yes, the gyro, we had a radar, we had a clock, we had an echo sounder, and then we had some, and a sextant and some logarithmic tables or stars and sun. So we had to calculate our position. We have to make absorption of sun and stars and all these things. And there was nothing else. And when I left Hamburg on a liner service vessel to New York, for instance, I had no contact with the company. From time to time, probably by radio operators, it gave the UATA, and that was it. Today, it's completely different. The vessels are all under control. The vessels are modernized. You get the captains on board the ship and the crew on board the ship. They know exactly where they are at any time, and they are online at any time. So the life on board the ships changed dramatically, but also the techniques on board the ships changed dramatically. In 1981, there were only very, very few container ships. So the second vessel I bought was a small container ship with 90 container built with Sita's shipyard, and that vessel was one of the first poor container vessels. Unbelievable, 90 container. And I was proud of that, 12 knots speed, very fast, because all the competitors, all the other coasters, they run only on 7 or 8 knots per hour. So with 12 knots, it was a really big, fast ship.
And I understand these days many seafarers have to learn again how to navigate without the technical tools because of spoofing and other challenges.
Yes, that was also a big change. When I studied at the University of Science in Leer for navigation, almost 2 semesters we spent on learning the magnetism. Radar and all the other things, okay, that was learning by doing. But now the magnetism is still important, but I don't think that they study for 2 semesters. So they have to study many other things. They have to learn how to navigate, how to also to, of course, cargo, how to calculate the cargo, how to calculate the stability. That was also what we had to do in those days. But today, everything can be done by computer. In those days, everything was done by hand and head and a calculator.
We heard this morning and also earlier this afternoon that the MEPC outcome sent shockwaves for some at least through the industry. And with your experience and looking forward, what do you see as the biggest priorities for ship owners in navigating this next phase of uncertainty?
Yeah, okay, it's a pity that the MEPC failed, but on the other hand, I studied a bit also in the last time, and there were some questions, and there were some overlappings, and there were some questions from some states. Okay, that it failed. It was mainly driven, I think, by politicians, like Mr. Trump. You all know him, and others followed. But on the other hand, also Knut, I believe probably we can have in the future a better deal, and the target we have, and that was already decided. Sorry, I have a bit problems with my eyes, so it's not that I'm crying. Probably we can have in the future a better deal, because when I was also involved in ICS in London, we discussed already to bring the zero emission target down from 2100 to 2050, because at the beginning we were discussing to bring it down only in 2100. Today we look for 2050, and I believe we can do it, but we have to think from the other side. Also, when I heard the discussion before, of course it's a big hurdle now today to make a decision which fuel we are using. So we can go on LNG. We do mostly, probably we talk about that later. We can go for ammonia. We can go for LPG. We can go for ethane. But at the end of the day, what we are burning is hydrogen, which is in these fuels. So we have to think from the supply side, the technical side on board our ships, or board our modern ships. Most of the ships, they can go with, let me say, biofuel or zero emission fuel. So the technical side, it's not the biggest problem. The supply side is the biggest problem. And in the last couple of years, we built a substantial fleet of gas carriers and also container ships. The container ships, 3,500 TEU and two with 1,500 TEU, and all they run on LNG. So it was an additional investment of $50 million per ship, but it pays off, because that is also what I heard this morning from Bremen. Probably we have to build up some green corridors, and those ships are all run for an American company from North America to Central and South America, and they take bunkers in Jamaica. So they're always passing by Jamaica, taking bunkers over there, and the fuel capacity is big enough to run 10,000 miles without rebunkering. So then they made a contract with one of the big oil companies, and they get the LNG supplied over there for half the price what they pay for fuel oil. So it makes sense, and this $50 million additional investment, it will pay off very, very soon. So, with other words, the huge investment even we make on the small ships, on 5,000 cube or 7,500 cube vessels, our customers, I say customers or charters, they pay for that.
Which is important. We tend to look at the days we're facing now as maybe the most challenging, but you have been around for several decades, and there has been ups and downs, and there has been challenges before, and you know, tapping into your experience, how have these cycles shaped the way German ship owners operate, and what lessons can the next generation learn from these experiences?
I start with the lessons for the next generation. My son is here, so it's not easy to answer on that. But I believe very much each generation must make experience with his own lessons, will make his own lessons. You see, when I started make my company, and I started also together with, not with Wilke, but with his father, with Rolf Briese, and we discussed a lot, and we studied together, and we discussed a lot, and he became a professor, and I became a captain and later on ship owner. The first vessels he built, or we built together, I did the management, and so we worked together. And we tried in those days already to build better ships than our competitors, or to build better ships than we experienced during our seafaring time. So that was a driven point for us. Very simple. We tried to make our coasters box-shaped. Now, that was very, very seldom. Almost no ship was box-shaped. And the power came, or why we tried to do it, because as seafarers we had to clean the holes from coal to transfer to grain, for instance. And it was a hell of a work with all the frames inside. So we say, if we make box shape, we lose a little bit of volume, but then it's very easy to clean. That was our dream, and that we did. So nowadays, I must say, even the big bulk carriers, most of the big bulk carriers, they're not box shaped, but they are double skinned. And that makes a lot of changes. For the future, I think there are opportunities again to make shipping even better. And as I said, Knut, the whole discussion to become not emission free, but to have zero emission, environmental zero emission, we have to think from the supply side. And I have my doubts. You see, we talked about electric car. If you have electric car, it's zero free. It's zero emission, zero. But we don't ask where the electricity to produce, to power our batteries comes from. Comes it from coal power stations in Poland, or from green energy out of the windmills, or from nuclear energy in France? So on our ships, we calculate the emission trading systems, the emissions, the certificates we have to pay from well to wake. So is that fair? We have to think about, because when I have emission-free ship, why it's not zero emission? So why I have to pay from well to wake? So there are a lot of discussions we will have in the future, and we need also younger people who try to involved in those discussions with the classification societies, with ICS, with IMO, to sit there. I have the feeling there are too many bureaucrats sitting over there, make decisions without talking to us, and we have not enough power to bring new ideas or to convince them that probably shipping is much cleaner than any other way of transportation.
Very true point. I want to turn a little bit to your time as the president of the German Shipowners Association, and looking back at that period, which achievements do you feel best capture your contribution to German shipping, and what are you most proud of from your time in that leadership role?
To be proud, it's, I don't know, I did just my job over there. But it was a challenging time, because when I started as president, we controlled about 3,500 vessels, German ship owners. In 21, when my presidency term ended, we had about 1,800 ships. So the big challenge was to keep the ship owners together, to work together, to get their fees that they could run the organization. We had 26 employees at the beginning and 13 only at the end of my presidency. So that was a big challenge, but then it started already with CO2 emissions, with trading systems, with who is going to pay for it, because in Europe, in Brussels, we had a lot of political discussions in Brussels, in Berlin, of course in London, and we had to try to convince them that they ought to teach them who is using the fuel, who is going to pay the fuel. Is that the charterer or is that the ship owner? And how, if the ship owner has to pay, how can he reimburse? So that was a very big challenge, but one of the biggest challenges was in the really difficult times, German ship owners, they tried, on the container business, they tried to make pooling agreements. So just to distribute the risk a bit. And then the German Minister of Finance, Mr. Schäuble, in those days, he said, oh, that's a good idea. It's a business by itself and it's fully taxable. So, and he signed already a contract. So I had many discussions with him. And lately I invited him to have a speech at our annual meeting in Hamburg. And at the end of the day, he understood our point, and also, of course, together with some lawyers, he understood the point, and that was written off. So we are not to pay. Then there was another point with the crewing, the manning system of German ships, and we had this fund together with the ship owners and the government paying a fund to get paid for train young people, and tax on seafarers on German-owned ships, European flag. The idea was to do it only to get it refunded only for German flag ships, but then we said that is against the European law, so we get it back for European flagged ships. And that was, I think it was a good success for all of our ship owners, and we can live with it.
Very well done. After such a distinguished career, Alfred, what guiding principles or lessons would you like to pass on to the next generation of leaders in maritime? And if I could add on one more, do you have a hope for the future of German shipping?
Shipping is people business, and as long as people keen to do this business, yes, of course, I have a hope, because it's a very interesting business, an international business. We spend a lot in train you people, on board the ships as well as in our offices, and as soon as they started their career in shipping, they find out how interesting it is, because you deal with the whole world. In most of the companies, you have the latest technologies, artificial intelligence, AI, not K, we always say KI in Germany. AI is not something we are thinking about. It's a reality, of course, in most of our companies already. So, and as young men or women, you can make a real career on board a ship. When I was 27, I got the first command of a big ship, ocean-going ship. So that was something, taking responsibility. And the same we can do in our offices to bring responsibility to the young people. And so it's a very interesting job. And I think, and without shipping, the world will not run. And whatever we do, it's only possible with shipping. People don't understand, but most of the goods we are at the daily use, we're on a ship somewhere. And I made one year, I made an example because I had to have a speech, and I say, Volkswagen. But a Volkswagen, how often he was on board a ship? Not the big car, but there's steel, there's rubber, there's, at the end of the day, there's oil, there's leather or fabrics. Everything is shipped. And at the end of the day, there's a a car, not only Volkswagen, all the other cars is the same. And so people have to understand, and also people have to understand the job of our seafarers, because if we have good trained seafarers, and I must say what we are doing to have all our ships, the U-builds, more than 20 now, the last 7 years or 8 years, and some more are coming. We have to train our people, and we have to keep them for a long time, because they have to know what they are doing, and they have to know how to handle the equipment. That is also what I heard this morning. To train the crew that they must be able to work with it. They have to understand it, and this is only possible if you talk to them. And I personally, I must say, I talked a lot in the past with our crew members. I got a lot of ideas, but I got also a lot of ideas when I was at shipyards and talked to the workers of the shipyards with a beer or two, and asked them a simple question: what would you do, or what would you change if that would be your ship? And believe it or not, Knut, I got a lot of ideas. Not everything I realized or was came into to function, but many ideas could carry on and could do it on later built ships.
Great. Thank you, Alfred, for sharing your experience and your insights. And again, congratulations on the Capt Link German Shipping Leadership Award. And I think we all think you deserve it tremendously, and we're really inspired by your reflections here this afternoon. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.